Hi everyone, we are going to go ahead and start today's webinar. Bernie is going to take over and show you everything.
Thank you very much. Thanks everyone for dialing in and attending. Before we start, I do want to let everybody know this session is being recorded. So this will be available to anyone who registered, whether they attend this session or not. We're going to make this session available to everybody, and this will be the first in a series of a number of webinars that we'll do to get into more detail on the Rival One platform. Today's webinar is going to be a bit of an overview of our multi-asset trading platform, Rival One. We'll be providing an overview of execution tools and demonstrating how users can manage their trading activity and positions across multiple asset classes from the same trading screen. So we'll start with a look into a typical view of multiple markets that you see on my screen now. So I'll walk through what everything on my screen and the tools that are available to us. We'll demonstrate some execution capabilities. We're going to spend some time looking at Rival One's high-speed spreader tool, with addition focus on multiple asset classes, and then we'll have a look into our premium options functionality, some features of which are new to the system, and we're very eager to show them to anybody who's interested. What you see now on my screen is a typical view into the market. So I'm going to go through quickly the components on my screen and then execute a few trades and have a look at what those look like in our portfolio and our position. In the top left here, and this is often the hub of our trading view, is our hot watch. Some people will call it a market view or a market grid, but a view into any instruments that you wish to monitor as a user. In this case, I've just added a handful, a couple of futures, including a future spread, a calendar spread there, a couple of energy futures, and a couple of stocks here at the bottom. Now, anything can be added, any instrument for which you have market data access can be added to the hot watch with a very simple search. So if I'm looking for something like crude oil, I see I've already got the September crude added. You'll notice that when I type CL in our search bar, the first result that pops up is CL Colgate stock. This gives you an idea of how many instruments are available on the Rival One platform. And then, of course, every stock symbol that does include CL or begin with CL. If I'm looking for a specific future, I need to simply add the month and year, and we can see the crude futures are available to us, as well as every calendar spread that contains that September 24 future that I just added. So without adding too much to this hot watch and getting our view too cluttered, you can just a quick look into how our search functionality works and the availability of a number of different options, asset classes, etc. Oops, excuse me. Let me just. On the right-hand side here is our portfolio. Portfolio will display positions in all instruments in which we have a position, as well as the P&L, day P&L, position P&L, and total P&L. You notice here off to the right, we've got the same columns, day P&L, position P&L, and total P&L, prepended by the word Theo. Those P&L numbers are based on the theoretical options price which we generate. So for anybody that is trading options and has options in their portfolio, the Theo P&L columns are going to be the most useful. The way this is grouped in the portfolio component is by base symbol, and we'll talk a little bit more about that when we get into the option specifics. But under, for example, the ES-SEP category, we can see that not only do we have our position in the ES-SEP futures, but also in any options that expire into the ES-SEP future. If we were to trade crude options, they would fall under the crude category as well. And you see you can drill down both to the month layer as well as the individual option layer, and you'll be able to do that for any set of instruments in which you have a position. Since we're talking a lot about multiple asset classes, it's important to note that we have the ability, of course, to segregate trades into multiple accounts. This is, of course, very important for anybody trading multiple groups of products, multiple asset classes. And so you'll see here that I've got my portfolio in tabs separated by my futures and options position in one tab and by my equities position in another tab. And the way I've done that is I have ensured through my default trading settings. And I won't spend too much time in the settings component because it's not all that interesting to most users. But it is worth noting that we have the ability to default trades by asset class into a specific account. So in this case, I am sending all my futures trades into my account 01. Same thing with my options trades into account 01. And all my stock trades are going into account 02. That's the easiest way that we have to keep everything segregated. And then, of course, you can separate in your portfolio those accounts as well. We do have the ability to set trading defaults at an exchange level or at a symbol level. So as granular as you want to get with your trades, whether perhaps you want, perhaps you desire CME trades to go into one account, ICE trades to go into another account, all of that is completely customizable for the user. But that is how we ensure that that the trades are routed to the proper account and that they're logged properly in our portfolio. On the right-hand side here, I've got a standard ladder or dome display of market for our ES SEP future. And then here in this row 4, I've got a handful of equity symbols. And the reason I've made those ladders a lot smaller is because those move around a whole lot. It's going to be a lot easier to trade equities through an order ticket, and I'll demonstrate that. But just a quick demonstration that with one click, I can center all my ladders and get to mid-market on my equities and my futures, any ladders that I have loaded into my workspace. When it sorry, a couple more components on here. I've got an order book and I've got a trade book. Once again, the trade book is separated by equity trades and by futures and options trades. So when I do execute into each account, we can segregate those, or if I remove all filters, we can see all trades that I've done for the day in all asset classes. So I've got some NVIDIA trades in there, which is incredibly popular trade these days, and some futures trades, some NASDAQ futures trades. On the right-hand side here is our ticker, or time and sales. So I've loaded up one with our ES complex, and I've got in there the front 2 months for the ES futures, as well as the calendar spread, the SEPTES calendar spread. I can certainly add more if I want to monitor additional contracts in the ES complex, or in any complex for that matter. I can add. This is not restricted to one instrument per ticker. You can mix and match. But just to give you an idea, here at the bottom, I've got a ticker going for Microsoft, so I can see time and sales on Microsoft as well. And if I wanted to add another stock in here, let's add NVIDIA, since I was just talking about it. Easy enough for me to add NVIDIA, and my ticker will now reflect all trades in Microsoft and NVIDIA. So you can see you're not restricted to one symbol. You can add as many as you like. We see that very often with users trading multiple equities. Let's talk about some basic execution. I'm going to start with some of the simplest executions in futures, and then we'll take a look at options as well. Most traders are very familiar with the ladder, the display of market. Some will call it an escalator, but this is a very standard display where we see price column down the middle, bid quantities on the left-hand side, ask quantities on the right-hand side. To place a simple order, I can select my time in force. In this case, I'll make this a day order. You do have GTC orders available, immediate or cancel. GTX and EXT are used for equity trades, which trades into the extended session. And of course, you have the ability to place limit market, stop orders, anything that is supported natively at the exchange in which you're operating. For now, I'm going to place a couple of day limit orders. To do so, a single click, and I've got an order quantity of 10 here. I'll place it below the market so we can see it working. A single click in the buy column will send a buy order. I'm now working by 10, 71.5. We can see that reflected in our order book here. Similarly, on the offer side, if I want to offer 10 above, I put it on the ask side. We see that all orders do show up in one column for ease of viewing, so that users have a very clear view with the ability to see all the orders at once. A single left click will cancel an order. You also have the ability to modify orders by clicking and dragging. So if I want to move this bid down, I can click and drag that down to 0.5. It's reflected, of course, in my order book. And you'll notice when I hovered over that order, you have the ability to, if you're changing it just by a couple of levels, you'll probably want to drag. But if I want to change the quantity or change the price by a larger amount, I can do so from this little miniature order ticket here. So if I want to reduce this to a 5 lot and I want to take the price down to 70 even, I can do that. Click yes, and my order is adjusted. So I'm now working a 70 bid on 5 instead of a 70 half bid on 10. When it comes to futures and future spreads, for that matter, we see most traders utilizing this kind of order entry. You'll notice that in the ladder, we have the ability to add multiple tabs. So while you can most certainly add additional ladders to your workspace in order to save real estate, we'll see a lot of users adding instruments and tabs. So I've got that step in there. I can drag, I can either add a tab manually or I can drag from my hot watch, which is very popular. And if I want to drag this future spread into my ladder, I can do so easily with that mechanism. I can now place orders on the future spread directly if I want. You'll see the spreads working, of course, in the order book. Same order entry, modification, cancellation capabilities. In addition, you've got a quick sort of easy cancel buys, cancel sells from the ladder. So I can do that with one click. Or we've got our nice friendly panic button from the order book. Cancel all will, of course, cancel all orders working in all products. From the ladder, we've also got a couple of algos that I'm going to cover briefly, although we'll go into more detail on those in a future session, as well as this show quantity feature, which acts as an iceberg. So if, for example, I want to trade a 50 lot of futures and I only want to show 5 at a time, I can set my show quantity to 5, and I'm working 72 bid on 50, but I'm only showing 5 to the market at a time. Those familiar with iceberg orders will be familiar with that mechanism. You see off to the left here, we've got a handful of what we like to call algo buttons. So I've added a couple of algos out of the box to these buttons, and I'll do a quick example. An OCO order, for example, is available. You'll see in our drop down here a number of different algos. I won't go into great detail on these. That'll be for a future session, but we are constantly adding more algos, more trading strategies to this list, and everything you see here is available out of the box. With an OCO order, I'm going to do a very simple order quantity. I'll make a 10 lot here, OCO trade, with a 5 tick, looking for 5 ticks of profit and working a stop order 5 ticks below at an offset. So if I could work to buy 10 lot, we see that I'm bidding 71.25 on 10, and I'm also bidding 73.75 on 10, a stop basis, and of course one will cancel the other. So as soon as one gets filled, the other will cancel, and we see that the qualifier here in our order book, day order limit, and the algo is OCO. So you always have a reference as to what algo is being worked in the case that you are employing an algo in your trading. I'm gonna go ahead and cancel that one. Similarly, we've got a bracket order, also very popular. I'm going to go ahead and actually execute a bracket order here, or see if I can take a fill, so we can see the behavior here. A bracket order is a limit order that will spawn an OCO. So in other words, I'm going to get into the market at my desired price, and then the OCO order will work to get me out. So if I place a 10 lot bracket order bid at 72, when that gets filled, it will spawn an OCO order. I'm actually going to go ahead and drag that order up to the market to get filled. Once I do, we see that I was filled on my 10 lot. I've got a buy of 10, price of 73, and I'm now working automatically an OCO order to take 5 ticks of profit or to stop me out at 5 ticks of loss. That order will continue working until I cancel it, which I'm going to do at this time. I mentioned trading equities through the ladder, and of course that is possible. But because the equity markets move around so much, and because those penny increments can be hard to keep track of, we also offer the ability to enter orders directly from the hot watch, and we'll see this order entry capability in other tools as well as we move through this webinar. But a single left click on a bid or an offer will bring up an order ticket. I can specify here the same details that I can from the ladder, both my time in force and my time in force and my order type, limit versus market. In this case, let's go ahead and buy 100 shares at 34.5. Let's see if we can go ahead and get filled on that. And I did get filled. My trade book here below, and since I'm filtered on all trades, my NVIDIA trade, I just bought 100 for 34.47. Even though I placed the order at 4.5, we got a better fill there. That's nice. And once again, filtered equity trades in one tab here. And if I go to my futures and options trades, of course, that NVIDIA trade does not show up. Everything I've got, all trades will be, of course, captured in my summary tab here. You will notice from the order ticket, you have the same algo options. So you can enter those same OCO, bracket orders, eye on the fly, also known as a sniper order. Those can all be entered from the order ticket as well. And when we get into, and you've got max show, you've got iceberg quantity here in the order ticket. As we get into options, we'll see a few more algos specific to options orders, which I'll touch on briefly and go into detail in a later session. But all of those trading capabilities are available from the order ticket as well as from the ladder. I'm going to take a look now at our spreader capabilities. I do want to mention just briefly, if there are questions along the way, I will absolutely be taking questions. Please go ahead and enter them into the chat, and our admin will send them along to me. So please do put your hand up or put a question in the chat. I'd love to answer any of them as we go along, or at the end if you have questions at the end. But that's everything I want to cover in terms of very basic order entry and position management. Let's take a look now at our spreader component. So in my workspace, we do have the ability to have as many windows as you like. With this webinar, of course, it's harder to show multiple monitors, so I'm doing this all from one monitor, but of course you have the ability to create multiple windows, as many as you like, across multiple screens. Your workspace is always saved. In this case, I've put all of my spreader functionality into my spreader window. So I'm going to talk a little bit about our spreader component. Spreader will allow users to define their own custom spreads. They can be inter-exchange, intra-exchange, and can even be between multiple asset classes. And that's where we really see some powerful tools when it comes to our spreader. So I've got a couple of spreads that I built ahead of time. Some of you may be familiar with the common spreads like the fight or the knob or the crush for that matter. I've just used sort of our basic, the standard ratios, standard multipliers to create this crush spread. I'm going to, for this webinar, I'm going to demonstrate a much simpler spread where I've created here a crude oil versus Brent oil spread, and that gives us an idea that we can trade. This is going to be CME versus ICE exchange. So in this case, I've just created a one-to-one spread, buying the CME crude oil contract, selling the ICE BRN contract on a one-to-one basis. I'm using the CL contract as my hedge leg. Usually I do that for the more liquid leg. And when we place an order, we're going to quote in the BRN and hedge with the CL contract. And I'll show you exactly what that looks like. So now that I've created my CL versus BN spread, I can pull that into a ladder in the workspace. So once again, the dragging functionality is very useful. It gives you a lot of flexibility. You'll see that I've got the option now to display only the spread ladder or all legs of the spread, or I can put the legs into tabs. My preference is to show all legs, especially for this type of demonstration, so we get a good idea of how the spreader component is working. So in this case, as I mentioned, CL versus BRN, I'm trading these on a 1-by-1 basis. I'm going to be quoting in the BRN and hedging in the CL. So I'm going to go ahead and put an order in on our CL versus BRN spread. I'm going to bid 404 for a 5-lot. And what we see is a 5-lot offered in the BRN. When my 404 price is met as the difference between those two contracts, we will fire the quote order and then a hedge order in the CL leg to give me my full spread price. I'm going to go ahead and pay up on the spread so we can take a look at what an execution looks like in the spreader. So if I try to take this order, drag it all the way up, pay 401 or higher, we should be filled on this. Let me re-enter that order. We are in our internal demo environment. So these are, while these are live prices, this is a simulated execution. However, if I place a 5-lot buy, which I just placed through the market, we'll see in our trade book, I did execute a 5-lot of CL versus BRN. I placed the order at $4. I got filled a penny better at 401. What is incredibly useful here is we have this expander functionality. So when I do execute that spread, I can now look and see what my leg prices were. So our spread, of course, is listed as the CL versus BRN parent, which I have named, and we can see the individual execution prices for each leg. In the case that you get multiple executions, so if I were to trade a larger size, a 50-lot, we're likely to get multiple prices. So there's my 50-lot trade. My average price is displayed here, but if I use my expander to see each individual fill, I can see how many I got at each individual price. And of course, they are all tied with the parent spread order. So you have a reference in your trade book as to exactly what has been executed. In addition to those sort of basic future spreads, we do have a number of users who are trading futures versus equities, and most common is this kind of NQ basket. So this is where the spreader can become very powerful for users trading across multiple asset classes. In this configuration, what I've done here, and this is a very basic one, I'm not much of an equity spreader, but just to give an idea of how this works and to show that you can create spreads with multiple legs, we've created a basket here, the NQ future versus individual stocks, Microsoft, Apple, Netflix. There is no limit to the number of legs that you can add. Once again, in this case, I'm quoting the less liquid leg, which is often the equities, and hedging with the more liquid leg, which is the future. But you can certainly add as many legs as possible, as you desire. We do see some baskets where users will trade up to 40 or 50 stock legs against the one future leg. And that's where it can become incredibly powerful with the spreader component. Let's take a look next at our options functionality. So we've talked about futures, we've talked about equities, the way that you can execute both, the way that both can be spread. Let's take a look now at our at the options market. So I'm going to flip to my option watch page and give you a look at what we have here. On the left-hand side, we've got a pretty standard option chain. Strikes are listed down the middle, calls on the left, and puts on the right. In this case, I'm looking at Microsoft options. So this gives you another idea of our ability to price, to provide solid theoretical values across a range of instruments and asset classes. I've got an option chain loaded up here for ES, one for NQ, one for Microsoft, and I've got heat mapping enabled. When the heat mapping will indicate to us where a bid or an offer has crossed our theoretical value. These theoretical values that you see here are generated by our auto fitter, which is updating in real time. And we certainly don't aim to be perfectly mid-market on every option. Rather, we're looking for a curve that will best fit the market. So in this case, you'll see there'll be a couple of offers, a couple of bids, these one lots that are sticking out there, where somebody out there is bidding bidding 70 1/4 for a couple of 57.5 calls. That'll give us an idea of where the interest is in the market. That heat mapping can be, of course, enabled or disabled at the user's discretion. I certainly choose to keep it enabled, give me an idea of what the option market is looking like. On the right-hand side here, we've got our vol graph component. So in this case, I'm plotting the volatility graph for Microsoft options and most option traders will be used to this display of strikes on the x-axis, implied volatility on the y-axis. The most basic view will simply show us our current curve. So this is going to show us the volatility at each strike level. We can add in here the settlement curve, so we can compare to the morning that is using settlement prices. So we can compare and see how much the curve has moved throughout the day. And if we want to get more granular and look at the calls and puts, we can plot those as well. And you have the ability to zoom in and get real detailed about exactly what our calculated volatility is for each strike. And then of course, what the market is showing at each strike. So for example, on the 400 strike, we see that there's a bit of a spread between the call and the put, and our calculated curve is falling right there along the middle. So again, the curve will not always be exactly mid-market. Rather, we're working to draw the best fit curve and updating it in real time with any updates to market data. In the bottom right corner, we have a strategies component. The way I've created that strategies component is I've simply dragged this strategy icon over here to create a new component. In this case, it's going to list everything for the ES complex. And we can see all strategies that are in the market. Again, in this case, I have the ability to apply heat mapping. I can enable and disable in the strategies component as I see fit. Of course, I like to keep it enabled. But from the strategies component, we can now see what strategies are being quoted in the market, where there's interest, the size of the trade on the day, and these are all sorted by RFQ times. This is everything that has been RFQ'd in the ES in ES options, and you can see the time and ascending value there. In some cases, these spread names get very long, so hovering over it will give you a tooltip whereby you can then see the details of each spread. And and you can enter using the same mechanism that we saw on the hot watch, with a single click on a bid or an offer, can enter an order on a spread that is in the market. Along with that, what can be very powerful is I can pull any of those spreads. We talked about drag and drop functionality, but any spread that I see here in my strategies component that I have an interest in, I can simply drag into my hot watch, and that'll of course be retained until I remove it. So day over day, I can monitor that spread, see what the market is, see if there's any trade in this spread. There hasn't been so far. But the ability to manipulate these spreads, put them in a hot watch, or drag them to a ladder can be very powerful as well. So if I want a ladder for this spread, I can simply drag it like that, create a ladder, and place an order on the spread from my ladder. For spreads, for options and for spreads, we mostly see users utilizing the order ticket. We saw how I dragged my ES spreads into here. If I want to do the same thing with NASDAQ, I can grab my strategies icon again, create a new tab with all of my NQ spreads, and we see we've got theoretical values and market data for all of my products in the NQ complex. Again, with the tab functionality, it's very easy to create multiple option chains on the same screen. So if I want to add a new tab here, and let's take a look at crude options. Again, because of the naming convention and the way a lot of these options are named, we use base symbol to classify all of our options. And what I mean by that is I'm going to create a tab called CL, and when I add my symbol, once again, if I type in CL, I do have that Colgate available to me, but what I really want here is the CL future at the CME. So that's our base symbol. If I select that, we've got all of our different CL-based options. So the regular LO options, the dailies, the weeklies, everything that is available. I'm going to go ahead and select all, give you an idea of what the option chain looks like if we're looking at multiple symbols within the same product family. So in this case, all of our expirations are listed chronologically. All of the options, regardless of their symbol, are listed in that fashion as well. And I can, of course, expand or collapse any row. I can enter an order directly from the option chain here by a single click on a bid or offer to enter an order via the order ticket. And then once again, if I want to monitor strategies for this family, I can either create a new strategies component, or in this case, I'm just going to add to my existing one and create a new tab with all the products within LO. You can see here that there are 73 pages of strategies, so it's very easy to lose track. That's why we give users a whole bunch of ways to filter for different strategies. So, for example, if I want to view only straddles, if I use our straddle STRD straddle nomenclature, that'll list all the straddles for me. If I care to see covered spreads, I can do that as well. Anything that is covered. So there are a lot of ways that you can set and apply filters and monitor the any strategies that are being quoted in the market, any RFQs that have come through. From the option chain addition, we talked about the vol curve, we talked about the vol graph, we talked about strategies. We can also create an options ticker, and this can be very powerful as well, because as we know, if you're looking at time and sales for options, you want to know about not only the outrights, but any spreads that trade in that option family, and anything related. So I can create a ticker component from this option chain. This is my CL option chain, by simply dragging that T to create an options ticker for CL. And you'll notice here that this is now going to track everything in that complex, be it the LO product, the LO2, ML3, which frankly I'm not even sure must be a daily crude option. But in the case that you create a ticker for an options family, we will display for you our theoretical value at the time of the trade. So you can compare edge. We'll also display all of our Greeks, our implied volatility for that trade. And if there is a trade that is of interest and you wish to trade it, a single click on the price, since there's no bid and ask in time and sales, a single click on the price will open an order ticket, and I can place a trade on that 83 call if I wish. The other feature that that we have found great success with the option chain is in terms of building spreads. So I'm going to build a couple of basic spreads here, and when we get into our option specific webinar, we'll go into more detail here. But I'll give an idea of how a couple different ways in which we can create and save option spreads. So for those who are unfamiliar or less familiar with specific structures, and you just know the strikes that you want to trade, single left click on a strike. In this case, I'm going to do the 56.5 strike. Will display to us up top any option or any combo that has the 56.50 strike included. So we see the call up there, we see the put up there, but also the straddle, and we see our theoretical value and the combo. If I select the straddle, we can see that it is displayed in our floating spread builder here. So I've got my set 56.5 straddle. We see each leg that is displayed, so we can see the bid and offer on each leg, as well as the Greeks for each leg. And then of course the package, the straddle as a whole, we see the market on that spread, and the Greeks for the spread as well. Similarly, with from the strategies or from the ticker, all of these spreads can be saved in the hot watch as well. So if I don't care to trade that straddle right now, but perhaps I want to save it in my hot watch, there's my SEP straddle. I can save that day over day. And similarly, if I select multiple strikes, if I'm building a spread, if I select the 5600 and the 56.5, for example, we see all spreads that can be made with those two strikes. So we've got the call vertical, the put vertical, the strangle, etc. I won't go through each and every one, but that is a way to quickly see each and every strategy that is available with your chosen strikes. For those who are more familiar with structure and know the ratio in which they want to build and the type of spread they want to build, we can jump straight to that floating spread builder without that classification by clicking on the theos. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and build a simple put vertical. I'm going to build the 5500, 5600 put vertical. So a single left click on the 5600 put will initiate my spread. I'm going to right click on the 5,500 put to indicate that that's a sell. And once I've got those two in there, our classification recognizes this as a put vertical. We can see the 5,500, 5,600 set put vertical is listed in the market, 25 bid at 25 quarter. Our Theo is just above that bid. This looks like a little buying opportunity to me here. We can make about 8 cents of edge. So I can enter orders again directly from here, or I can drag that spread into my hot watch or into a ladder and enter orders on it from there. Since I'm in our internal demo environment, I'm not connected directly to the, I'm not connected directly to the exchange, so I cannot send an RFQ, but for those of you who operate in production, you will be able to send an RFQ on any spread that you create here from the floating spread builder. And of course, that RFQ will be displayed in our strategies component as well. Finally, just a quick look into our chart. Oh, I'm sorry, I did want to show one more thing. The way our option chain is oriented, as you saw, is vertical. A lot of traders do prefer to see their options listed in what would be a horizontal option chain, which can be sort of synthesized by creating multiple vertical chains. So in this window, I've created pseudo horizontal option chain for my crude options, with the weeklies on the left here, LO2, and then I've got LO July, LO August, and so it makes it a little bit easier to compare month over month if you're used to viewing your options in a horizontal chain rather than a vertical chain. Finally, I want to take a quick look at our charting capabilities. Any symbol for which you have market data access can be charted. In this case, I've added ES to my chart. I've added Bollinger Band studies. You've got a whole number of studies and expressions that are available to you, as well as different chart types. I actually prefer a line chart to candlestick, although I know a lot of people prefer candlestick, but all of that is available to you. And of course, this can be zoomed in and out. You can place markers. All your standard charting tools are available here. This covers just about everything I wanted to cover in this first overview. Once again, we're going to be doing a series of these. Oh, I'm sorry, there was one I did mention earlier, and then I skipped right over it. I was talking about option-specific algos. I do just want to have a quick look at some of those without going into too much detail, because we will cover those in a future session. But if you notice, if I open an order ticket for an option instrument, I do have additional option-specific algos. Minimum edge algo, contingent algos, and then we have the auto hedge capability, which you just can turn on or off. That can be set by default in your trading settings as well. Without going into great detail on each of those option algos, because we'll be covering those in the future, I will say that we are working to add more trading tools, more intricate algos, specifically related to options. They've been incredibly popular and incredibly powerful, and it's something we're very happy to have more users get familiar with and start using. That covers just about everything in this introductory session that I wanted to talk about. In future sessions, we are going to be looking at more detail at the spreader component, in much greater detail in our options capabilities, specifically algo trading, and some of the more specific volatility curve tools. I see we have, let's see, it looks like we have one question in the chat here. I'm going to see if I can. How do you deal with slippage with the multiple equity quotes? I'm not sure exactly what that means. Do you mean if we are quoting multiple equities in the spreader component? I assume that's what we're talking about here. So if I look at my spreader, I think this was a question about when I brought up the NQ basket. It's a question about how we deal with slippage with the multiple, in the case that there are multiple equities. It's a great question. What I recommend for users, especially those who are trading with multiple legged spreads, is that we use a hedge tick offset, also known as pay up ticks. So in this case, where I don't want to get hung on a specific leg, I might add a pay uptick to either the individual equity legs or to the future leg to ensure that I don't get hung. Now, this could, get you filled at a price one tick away from your desired price if you're using pay ups and you miss it. But this will, it's sort of up to the user to decide whether you are more interested in having a full fill with no hangs, or whether you're more interested in meeting your desired spread price. If you've got some wiggle room, I would use hedge tick offset or pay upticks. If you are very locked into your price, I would set these all to 0, which would leave you with the occasional hung order, as you mentioned, with slippage. Note as well that you can use negative pay upticks. So if you want to enter your orders a bit away from the market and work on your hedge orders, that is possible too. I hope that answers your question. It's can be a little bit difficult in this format, being able to decipher the questions there. Anything else on any components here that we've talked about? Spreader, basic order entry, options. I will mention that this, as I said earlier, this session will be recorded and made available to everybody on this call and everybody who registered for the webinar. It will also include my contact information. So if there are questions that come to you after this session is over or down the line at any point, please do feel free to reach out to me. Please do reach out to me at any time, or to our fantastic support team who can help answer questions. We're very happy to talk to you about your specific trading strategy and how we can help with that. And as I mentioned, we will be going into more detail in subsequent webinars. Thank you very much, everybody, for attending. Look forward to speaking with you again. And it looks like I did get an answer to yeah, that's the answer you're looking for the equity quotes. That's great. Thank you for that response. Thank you once again for attending, and I look forward to seeing you at future sessions. Have a good afternoon, everybody.